all the leaves, I think, are starting to rupture their innards and fatten out the mid palate. So basically what I'm doing, and what I do every month or so, is I taste through all the barrels and go barrel to barrel, a bee going into a flower, and assess how they're doing and what needs to happen. I mean, the goal is to leave them alone. But if I find that one barrel has a little too much oak or another barrel doesn't have enough oak, then we can swap those barrels. It's really just seeing what's going on in each of these environments in each barrel, because every barrel is different, every environment is different, and you just have to keep it up on it. It's the way it is. Otherwise, you're not making those kind of decisions to make great wine.
What wines are you tasting now?
Well, the last one was our own Block 3 Pinot Noir, which was beautiful. I think what I wrote down for that was rich red fruit, great structure. This is Hawksview 777 clone, and this was this end of the winery ring. This end of the barrels are all the stuff that came in early. So this was a block that we picked before the rains. This is a lot more lifted. Has really nice sweetness. Doesn't have as much structure, and a lot more aromatics, a lot more lifted. But once again, there's no flaws. It gives me a great idea when I'm tracking this. To me, this wine here, lifted red fruit, good sweetness, goes into Cuvée A. This one behind me is more black fruit structured. It's more of a winemaker selection Pinot. But obviously I'm looking for red flags. I don't really want any, but I want to make sure I don't have any. But if I keep an eye on it, I can track how these barrels progress. Also, it gives me a good idea when I'm looking at buying new oak, how the oak integrates and what barrels I want to match with what vineyards. It's really, I think that's the ultimate art, is finding out how to manage the vineyards and what oak accentuates what you want in the vineyards.
So what are your impressions of the vintage now that the wines are finishing malolactic?
Well, I think what I'm finding, and I think we had to work on it, I think our biggest goal here at Anne Amie is how to manage the tannins we get. I think that we're in a situation that a lot of people aren't in, is that we get an incredible amount of tannins. We get a lot of structure. And if you taste our wines in the past, you'll see that there's a lot of structure, but there isn't necessarily a lot of fruit sweetness. So I'm finding out what I'm doing here in the winery to manage the tannins, to downplay the tannins, and to accentuate fruit sweetness. So as I go through here, I may find that, for instance, one of the barrels down below was a brand new Francois Frere barrel, and the fruit sweetness was brought up by the barrel sweetness. So for me, it says, okay, if I have this vineyard and it gives me this, then I may need to. It may be counterintuitive, where I often think, oh, well, the oak is going to master the fruit, but sometimes that new oak sweetness actually brings out the fruit sweetness. It lengthens the wine, and so now I can say, okay, well, next time I get in this situation, I can do this. So back to your question, was this vintage is giving me a lot? Well, we had to work on tannins, but I'm finding that the structure and the balance of these wines in general is pretty amazing, especially considering the past. Alcohols have been higher, tannins have been higher, and therefore you get a shorter wine that's more condensed and less enjoyable. I think it's a pretty stellar vintage. I also like not knowing what I'm tasting before I taste it. Hawksview Bottomsville. So apparently I'm in the early Hawksview section. Very floral, There's a lot of rose petal in here. The citrus, it's actually quite nice. It isn't a heavy wine, but I definitely think that this wine is what I'm looking for aromatically. It's got a lot of sweetness, not much astringency. It's a beautiful wine.
How many barrels are there, and how often do you taste through them?
I think we have 268 red wine barrels. I taste through lots pretty much every week. And when I say a lot, we pick, for instance, we have here on the property 4 blocks. We may have picked that in 6 picks. Now that may be, those 6 picks may be 50, 75, 100 barrels, I don't know. But I'm not going to taste each one of those barrels every week. I have other things that need to happen in the winery. But every month and a half, I try to get through them all. And then if anything needs to happen, if there's anything changing, then I can. So, you have these spot checks regularly, and then you go through and you analyze every barrel on a monthly basis.